Hi, it is Sunday, August the 9th, and we are certainly getting closer to the day when we can say that we've got the worst of COVID 19, the pandemic, behind us. We are definitely making progress, and we'll begin with just a little bit of good news in terms of the numbers that we're seeing locally, nationally, and around the globe. In terms of the global numbers, not a huge shift this week, but it is good to see that things have decreased just a little bit. The average number of cases per day has gone down about 1% globally, mostly because of what's happening in the United States. Death numbers globally are only up 2% this week, so again, that's a good sign. Things are slowing down on a global scale. Here at home in the United States, we definitely continue to see good news. Over the last 2 weeks, the number of new cases per day in terms of a rolling 7-day average, we have seen a 20% decrease in a 2-week span. 2 weeks ago, we were telling you there were 69,000 new cases per day in the preceding week. This week, we're down to a little less than 55,000 new cases per day, so that's a very encouraging sign. And the most surprising sign nationally is that we expected that the death numbers would continue to climb for 2 more weeks. That is not the case. They dropped this week by about 15% from 1,214 deaths per day a week ago, and this week the death numbers were about 1,025. So that's really good news. The only way that could happen, it would seem, is if we're really beginning to see some progress in terms of therapeutic treatments that are beginning to have some effect on those who are the sickest. So that's really good. When we look in the state of Alabama, the numbers look similar to the U.S. numbers. We've seen an 18% decrease over the span of the last 2 weeks in terms of new cases per day. And here at home in Baldwin County is where the news is the best. In the last 2 weeks, we have seen a decrease of more than 50% in terms of new cases per day. 2 weeks ago, it was 118 new cases per day. Now we're down to 58 new cases per day. So at every level, it's encouraging. It's just a good reminder. We've been told now the tools that we have and the things that we need to do as pretty much everybody is masking up when they're out in public, as we're practicing social distancing and good hygiene. Those things are really working to put the brakes on the disease. So be encouraged. We're going to make it to the point where they get a vaccine. We're going to get this thing behind us, and it's probably not too many months away that we begin to see real progress in that regard. But don't ease up now. We need to just make sure we continue to do the good things we've been doing the last few weeks, and we'll continue to see progress in terms of less people getting sick and less people dying. I don't know about you, but I definitely feel like I'm at a place that I need to hear some good news. It seems like there's just so much gloom and doom. For weeks we've heard just so much bad stuff about the COVID-19, about the number of deaths, the spread of the disease. We've heard so much about just all the political tension and ugliness, and so much about racial tension and rioting. And regardless of what your chant is, whether it's Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter or anything else, we just feel so much tension between people, and it begins to weigh on us and take a real toll. And I read a little excerpt this week from an exchange between a pastor and an 87-year-old man and his congregation that I found really encouraging. The pastor was just admitting to this elderly congregant that he had just felt the weight of all of this negative stuff and just being so sick of all of the tension and the fighting back and forth about masks or not wearing masks, drugs or the drugs don't work, just all of this stuff. And he asked the older man, he said, "Do you find yourself stressed out by this? Is it really weighing on you?" And the elderly man said, "No, it's really not." And he said, "Well, how in the world is it not getting to you?" And he said, "Well, I learned a lesson a long time ago. And that is that I don't view life through the headlines. I don't view it through the headlines of the newspapers or the news that I see on TV. I don't view my life through the headlines of what's posted on the internet. I choose instead to view my life and my circumstances in terms of what's going on immediately around me and what's going on in the lives of the people that I know personally. And out of that," he said, "I choose to make up my own headlines." And so he said, in a normal day or a normal week for me, instead of just flooding my mind with all of the bad news headlines out in the mass media, he said, I just make up my own headlines. And I notice things going on around me and I just make up my own headline of man loves his wife well and shows her that with a very thoughtful gift. Black man and white man enjoy a cup of coffee together and show each other how much they care about one another. Just noticing the little things in life that become wins. And as I read that, I just thought how much I could identify with that. When we were at the very worst point in time in terms of the disease and rioting and all that was going on. We were hearing so much about all of this racial tension. And as I looked around me, the thing that encouraged me so much was what I saw here in my community was not people hating each other and screaming at one another. What I saw was people getting along, black and white and brown, loving each other and being extremely gracious and kind to one another. And I don't know, my heart just really resonated with what this old gentleman was saying to his pastor. And I just thought, we really do need to practice this. We need to stop worrying so much about what the headlines in the media are and just start recognizing and identifying headlines for what's going on right around us in our own world. Maybe our headline can be things this week like local churches come together believing that unity really matters, believing that we're better together. How about that for a headline? How about a headline that says couple that was struggling now find themselves in love with one another? Why don't we look for the positive things that are happening right here in our immediate surroundings that really do reflect the goodness of God and His redemptive work in our lives and hold on to those things instead of the bad news? The truth of the matter is, in life, you'll usually find what you're looking for. So let's look for the good around us and let's be a part of creating our own positive headlines. I'm Mark Price, reminding you to stay positive, to stay in touch, and to always remember that you are loved.